What is going on, guys? Welcome back. Some commentary for you. And wow. What a day this actually turned out to be. Rolling Stone put out an article that, in my opinion, buries Madden in a way that I never thought possible, a way that I never thought would be printed. And to give you some transparency to this, Ian Cummings, who many of you know, has a true hatred for me, who has banned me from his Twitter, who has constantly berated me during our conversations now 12 years ago, was at the head of this article. I commend him entirely for what he had the courage to come out and say. Just some cliff notes here. He talks about the influx of new employees obliterating the culture as they attempted to re-rate the game from scratch. He talks about dev kits being killed, employees sleeping at their desk, but most significantly, the Madden 2006 trailer never being intended for public release. He talks about the Madden 06 release not fitting into Tiburon's annualized process. And in order to do this, they had to go out and hire an influx of people, some of which he claims were laid off Walt Disney animators. He talks about a time where Madden was trying to go Hollywood, and he actually recalls a director that he felt worked on Lilo and Stitch, citing he wanted to make the players in the game like gladiators. And in doing this, he says the scope of this team was way out of control because they did not know the final hardware specs for the Xbox 360, yet they were creating these high-resolution assets based on league stadiums. He talks about guys that were designing 3D doorknobs, 3D fire extinguishers. One in specifically made a 3D power relay with all the internal switches in something that would be closed during the operation of a football game. And he talks about how all these things in conjunction with 3D grass and volumetric lighting, once they needed to actually put the players on the field and make the game function, they realized this was not going to work and they needed to scale back. It's intriguing. He also talks that EA wanted to go out and get announcing teams from local venues, but they deemed that was not practical. And that's something that people have clamored for a very long time. So now we know 12 years ago they wanted to go get local radio stations, hosts, and voiceovers to put them in the game. It's interesting that he talks about the ant system and how the game was programmed, not aligning. He specifically talks about days that he spent programming only to be told by animators that things would not line up, and he would have to go back and rework them. And this kind of works hand in hand with the motion shifting and the animation shifting that we always dealt with in those games. He talks about the user interface code moving from C to C++ and literally having to triple the team in size to scramble in rewriting this code. He specifically mentions the team was ill-prepared for that influx of talent and talks about, at times, 20 to 30 people being added per week, and understandably, how quickly they lost communication and vision of the product. And he actually believes those teams were coming on board and pushing the boundaries of the console too much in unintentionally burning out these dev kits. Now, I think the most damaging thing about this is how extensively he talks about now the infamous Madden 06 trailer. He actually says that was a visual target that was internally made to show these artisan programmers that were coming on board what to shoot for, which makes complete sense when we now know they were bringing in all these people, they weren't all accustomed to the product or the program, and they obviously needed some type of goal. The final product, even to this day, does not match this trailer. He says that an executive decided to release that when everyone knew that it should not have been done. He also talks about the demo, which was a visual of Shaun Alexander originally actually having a kicking game included that they finished the Friday before E3 and then were told that the demo would not suffice. That they went on a bare bones team and actually wrote a script of pre-canned animations that showed Shaun Alexander running in his facial animations. And he actually recalls that as kind of being like a watershed moment where the trailer was released, everyone's expectations were set, and really all they had was an animated character running in the middle of the field. Now, despite this pending fallout, he says that Tiburon never discussed a cancellation like we've known they later did with NBA Live. And he actually, to his credit, talks about his team's devotion for that, but later admits that he did actually have a breakdown in front of leadership, and they talked him off the edge. He did close out by agreeing, and this is where I guess we can finally come to an impasse of our argument and hatred, Ian. The game was a, quote, turd. But he does recant, and I will say respectfully, knowing this now, perhaps I should not have been as harsh on him, but still, he did work harder in his life than this and being crushed over it, which is probably why he really didn't want to hear my opinion, when in reality he probably knew I was more right than I was wrong. That's neither here nor there. He does lament, and so do I, the untapped potential, falling short of the final product, and obviously burning through so many people. Interestingly, though, he does talk about the modern Madden still using the C++ code they created, and in part, the Ant system becoming part of EA's now globally used Frostbite engine. So this brings up a whole new level of conversation of how much of that game is still lingering in today's game, and inherently how many of those problems have still carried over generationally as continued legacy issues. Regardless, as I said from the beginning, if you take some time out of your day to read this article, I believe you will find no better behind the curtain, if you will, breakdown of what is wrong with Madden then and perhaps now. I would hope that you take your time to read it. I appreciate you taking time to watch this video, and you know that I'll be back in the week with more comments.